Welcome back to my house of Jeep horrors. Today we are going to try and get this thing buttoned up and running again, get it out of the shop so that we can get the Impreza in here that you guys don't know about yet, and figure out what's going on with that. But moral of the story is, it is the second day after Christmas, which is the second day of Kwanzaa. My 5-year-old taught me that Kwanzaa starts the day after Christmas and runs for at least 4 days. She's not entirely sure. I have not looked it up. So happy Kwanzaa if you're celebrating that. Merry Christmas if you just celebrated that. So I had a pretty good Christmas because the elves at FedEx decided to deliver a bunch of stuff for me. That stuff is the parts that we need for this thing to get reassembled. This is important because we turned in my wife's HRV a little bit early, and now we're down to 2 cars. Actually, we're down to 5 cars, but 2 that are like acceptable to put children in. Which is fine because there's only 2 of us, but one is the Genesis. It's rear-wheel drive, and it's still on high-performance summer tires, and it is the worst thing I've ever driven in the snow, ever. So now that we're in the thick of it, I need to get my crunch on, get this thing back, and ahead of a couple storms that are shaping up to come in at the end of the week. Long story short, we have a pile of parts, right? So we have 16 spark plugs. These are Champion copper OEM spark plugs. That's it. No iridium, laser, platinum crap, just the spark plugs that came in it from the factory. The engineers were really smart when they designed this thing. It was supposed to run with these. It's gonna run with these. That's it. Not changing the heat, freaking anything. It's just OEM Champion spark plugs are like $1.06 a piece, right? Great spark plugs. We have a brand new set of MDS lifters from Engine Tech. For those of you who are gonna be like, oh my God, he's putting it back together without soaking the lifters. It's not 1987 anymore. Grow up. This stuff has better machining tolerances than you and I could have ever dreamed of 25 years ago. So, brand new set of lifters from Engine Tech. We have a brand new MDS solenoid. You'll notice that I went with a Dorman one. There's a reason. Dorman makes one. Don't know why Chrysler hasn't done this yet. That is all aluminum. Crappy plastic that likes to break, aluminum that doesn't break. It's a solenoid. It is a 2-wire activation. As long as they got the resistance kind of right in this thing, it's gonna work, right? Dorman has been making some good stuff for a long time. I've been using them for forever. You can get them through Advanced Auto, CarQuest, whatever you have in your area. Since Advanced Auto bought CarQuest, I'm sure you can get them from elsewhere, but that's where I've always gone to get them. This particular order actually came from Rock Auto because they were the cheapest and the quickest at this point in time, and all things considered, it is what it is. We have a new set of head bolts. These are the bolts that actually bolt the head to the motor, and they're very important to replace on these Hemi 5.7s every time that you take the head off, because they are torque to yield bolts. Now, what torque to yield means is when you go through and you tighten all of the cylinder head bolts, the main ones, not these tiny ones, they're like 22 foot-pounds or something like that up here. But when you torque these ones in particular, you're supposed to tighten them to 22 foot-pounds and then 46 foot-pounds, and then you go 90 degrees from 46 foot-pounds. And what that does is it multiplies the force that's on that bolt to a point where you're just below the bolt's yield. The yield is the actual shear point of the bolt, where it's going to fail, right? So you won't see it on bolts like this because these are actually still in pretty good shape. And realistically, I could reuse these because there's no necking on them. But a new set of head bolts is $11 and it's not worth the risk. So basically what happens in torque to yield bolts a lot of times is down here on the shank of the bolt, when you actually put that final 90-degree torque on there, the bolt starts to neck down a little bit, and you'll actually get like a dip in the threads where the bolt has stretched. So when you hear people talk about stretched head bolts, if you ever hear someone talking about a high horsepower drag car, diesels do it a lot. Really high compression motors that lift the head. They put in too much boost and you lift the head. Typically the head bolt itself is actually stretched, and that's because the bolt is just a little bit beyond whatever its yield capacity is. when it comes to securing the head to the motor. That was a lot of words in a short time. Anyways, the only thing that I didn't get in the mail, and I'm just realizing this now, is the 2 bolts that hold the exhaust manifold to the Y-pipe. And for the most part, that's fine. They're really just M12 bolts that are 75 or 87 millimeters long. I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's just a grade 5 bolt, so I can run down to the hardware store and grab some grade 8s if I really wanted to, and it'll be fine. Any half-inch or M12 bolts should fit. I'm pretty positive that those are M12s. Actually, it might be 10s. Regardless, it's very non-specific hardware. So order of operations, what we're going to do, we're going to get the face of the cylinder head cleaned up. We're going to get the rest of the cylinder head cleaned up as well. We got to remove this gasket. You can see that there's a ton of galvanic corrosion that's occurred on the side of this aluminum head. So we're going to clean off some of that on the exhaust ports just to make sure we get a good sealing surface with the new gaskets. We're going to remove these done studs, which should be fairly easy. We're going to bang on a remover and walk them out. Most of the time when these break, it's just because of a heat thing. It's not because they're actually seized into the head. This one broke because it was seized into the head, but normally you can see all that corrosion. Oh, that one might suck actually. We're gonna find out. How's that? So we're gonna focus on the cylinder head real quick first, get it cleaned up. We're gonna whiz wheel off the face of it. Just a soft, I believe it's either an 80 or 100 grit whiz wheel. I already checked it with the straight edge. I wanted to see what it was like before with all the crap on it. And with the straight edge, I couldn't see any real major imperfections on this. Between all the cylinders looks fine. You know, there's no evidence here that there's anything leaking between them. Between the coolant passage ports, any of the oil ports, anything like that. There's no evidence of damage there. Same thing goes for the block. So we're going to clean up the block mounting surface, clean up the exhaust manifold, clean up the head, remove the studs, and then we're going to start reassembly. Hopefully get this pig running today. We'll go from there. Sweet. All right, it is very obviously the next day. Where we are, camera died somewhere in the middle of the time lapse. I was raging because my oil change bucket apparently that holds 10 quarts of oil at 7 quarts of oil decided to overflow. Left me with solid Exxon Valdez style spill. Seems to be a theme here. Again, there's like plenty of space in there, right? And yet somehow it just decided to spill everywhere. No idea whatsoever. Good news though, it is back together. It is running very well. There is no misfire at all. I mean, this thing is running mint. I think the combination of 4 different types of spark plugs, along with whatever hodgepodge stuff that the previous owner wanted to do, led to basically what we have here. As you can see, I'm very boringly burping the coolant system right now. Got some bubbles. I think the thermostat's still closed, so once we see the thermostat open, this funnel, you know what? Let's take a step back. If you guys have not seen these funnels before, they are amazing. They are a freaking lifesaver. So these funnels basically allow you to bleed the coolant system super efficiently. If you didn't have one of these, what you would have to do is kind of fill the radiator, pop off one of the hoses, hope that it's the highest hose in the system so you can get all the air out of the system. Because when you get air in the system, air is non-compressible. Air makes hot pockets, it makes hot spots, it causes warpages, it causes leaks, it causes no heat in the car, it can cause all sorts of havoc on the vehicle. So what this funnel does, you use the specific adapter to the car, right? Fill this bad boy up with coolant, and as the car runs, as the thermostat opens, as the coolant is flowing through, it allows air. There we go. It's like the thermostat's opening right now. So basically, it allows air to escape the cooling system while coolant can immediately take its place, right? So natural force of gravity here at work. Yep. Thermostat's open as the coolant level's dropping. So gravity is going to push the force of that coolant down into the engine. It's going to help displace any of the air. It creates basically the highest point in the car in the coolant system that you want. Makes life ridiculously easy. I got mine from the Matco guy 12 years ago. I'm sure that you can get them wherever now. Getting a lot of bubbles, which is awesome. That means that there's going to be no air in the system. Next and most likely final video on this thing is going to be figuring out what the airbag light is, along with the ESP and the ABS lights. Again, pretty positive it's going to be that clock spring. And then in addition to that, we're also going to be putting a remote start in this. So this thing is fully loaded. It has backup sensors, navigation, Bluetooth, hands-free, blah, 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 all that stuff, but no remote start. So I bought an MDC unit, which is a plug and play for the most part. I'm going to be going over that. So if anyone's interested in putting a remote start in their car, uses the factory fob, nothing fancy. It's super easy to do. So we'll cover that. And then we will put this thing to bed and we will get back to El Yatsen. So again, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys checking this out and for following along on this kind of off the path project, right? This is not what you signed up for, but it's what I'm giving you. So again, really appreciate it, guys. I think I'm gonna start doing some t-shirt giveaways at let's say every 50 subscribers. So we're at 108 right now, 150, 200, 250, 300. Again, really appreciate you guys. Would like to grow this thing a little bit. So if you're interested, hit the subscribe button. Thanks. Have a great one.